They released hundreds of bison into a grassless area, and the result was truly chaotic. Dear ladies and gentlemen, since the first Europeans set foot in North America, the agricultural land here has faced a major challenge, losing about 0.18 centimeters each year, which is a rate considered acceptable by the U.S. Department of Agriculture. If this situation continues for much longer, perhaps in less than 30 years, America's land could degrade so severely that only 5% of the area remains undamaged. In light of this, the first necessary step is to change farming methods, as they have caused significant losses. However, interestingly, in America, an unusual solution has been found to restore the land, which is the introduction of the bison, a powerful and wild animal that can completely transform the landscape here. Bison, with their majestic appearance and superior strength, are a legendary symbol of North America. When released into barren lands, scientists began studying the strange phenomenon and discovered why these giants could become a key part of the strategy to halt land degradation. In the past, bison were so dominant across North America that if you set foot in any area, it was not hard to encounter them everywhere. Today, they are still present in many parts of the United States, parts of Canada, and some regions of Mexico. According to studies, from Alaska to Mexico, this area was once vast, green grasslands, an ideal place for bison to live and thrive. These extensive grasslands enabled them to survive and spread over a large area. Millions of animals lived and prospered in this belt until the arrival of humans began to completely change the landscape here. In the 16th century, when European colonists came to North America, the Spanish brought horses, a seemingly unremarkable arrival. But it actually had a huge impact on the lives of bison. Horses are not predators, but their presence made it easier for the indigenous people here to hunt bison. By the early 19th century, about 60,000 indigenous people owned between 300,000 and 900,000 horses. This allowed them to hunt bison on an unprecedented scale. In 1840, in just one season, they slaughtered up to 500,000 bison for meat and an additional 100,000 for trade. Not only that, competition between horses and bison for grass also contributed significantly to the decline of this animal. In North America, livestock like cattle began to appear and spread, bringing diseases that put bison at risk of extinction. Plus, they were also competitors. By 1900, about 30 million cattle were grazing in the bison belt, pushing them out just as horses had done. Before humans arrived, bison in North America were numerous. No one knew exactly how many because no one could count them. Then humans came and estimated that before the 1870s, there were about 60 million bison living in North America. On this map, the lightest color indicates the range of this species. Since humans hunted bison for a long time, their habitat has shrunk significantly compared to before Homo sapiens appeared. However, bison still roamed across a large part of North America until the real slaughter began. With photos like this starting to appear, showing no bison encountering humans without being hunted. As a result, their living range was reduced. But even after that, no one stopped exterminating bison, causing their range to shrink until only black dots remained by 1890. By then, bison were nearly extinct. In 1884, only 325 remained. In just 20 years, the number of bison plummeted from 60 million to just 300. The near-total extinction of bison also harmed nature because this species was a key element of the short grass prairies in America. When they graze, they also disperse seed. Bison often roll in mud or dust, creating shallow depressions. When spring comes, these depressions fill with water, forming wetland areas with characteristic vegetation. Due to their large size, bison carcasses are an important source of nitrogen and phosphorus for plants. This animal also grazes in large, high groups, so this grazing method creates areas of varying grass heights in the landscape. This heterogeneity is crucial for many animal species, some preferring short grass, while others prefer tall grass. However, all of this became the past when bison were nearly extinct. Short grasses were replaced by tall grasses less tolerant of the climate conditions in the bison's prairie. This caused many areas to completely lose. Large livestock replacing bison grazed uncontrollably and negatively impacted the local ecosystem. This became another reason why the former green prairies became barren. Along with collie development, this led to the prairie area in the southern U.S. plains decreasing from over 11,900 square kilometers to only about 1,800 square kilometers by 1926. The situation in other regions of the U.S. wasn't much better. This was an ecological disaster of unbelievable scale. But another disaster occurred afterward that shocked everyone. The destruction of prairies led to dust storms in the 1930s that carried away 850 million tons of soil into the Atlantic Ocean. Since then, people realized it was time for change, including increasing bison numbers. Wallowing was once a protector of the health of America's green prairie. They began restoring the American bison population at Yellowstone National Park, where initially only 25 individuals found refuge. A number not large, and hard to imagine that this number would multiply many times. However, the park's groups of biologists, activists, and ecologists worked tirelessly to restore this population. By 2022, the bison population at Yellowstone National Park reached about 5,900 individuals. Clearly, the land condition and ecosystem in the park was supported in various ways. Although this is one of the most famous parks in America, no one underestimates the important role of bison in maintaining the health of the local land. Next, we come to the Chicago area, home to Trophic National Park. Previously, bison had been wiped out and the land here probably never had anything survive. In addition, the park is located on an area of the U.S. military ammunition production. This left the surrounding land in poor condition. However, currently, this area has about 23.3 square kilometers of prairie with diverse plant communities, birds, and animals. Since 1996, traditional land restoration methods like planting trees, mowing, burning, and using herbicides have been applied here. However, in 2015, bison appeared near Chicago. Based on current parks, it can be seen that bison are the excellent solution that helped restore the area and maintain it in good condition. However, this is just the beginning. The prospect of land restoration using bison and other methods. Researchers decided to continue this experiment near Chicago for another 20 years, until 2035. One of the most active groups in restoring America's prairies is the American Prairie Foundation with their own approach. American Prairie, a nature reserve in Montana, by 2024. The living area of this reserve had reached 213,000 hectares. Of this, 5,600 hectares were designated for private ownership and 155,000 hectares of land leased for the. They buy and lease land to connect areas and form a continuous wildlife corridor, covering nearly 1,300,000 hectares. To restore land in this region, many methods will be used, including bison, with numbers up to 10,000 individuals. Initially, participants in the project said implementation would be long and difficult, but now everyone agrees with this because there have been some initial results. Land restoration efforts began in 2005, when several dozen bison were brought to Montana. As of 2025, American Prairie has become home to about 901,000 bison, moving across 24,000 hectares. Large, even now, bison are contributing, though not significantly, but still importantly to restoring Montana. The land had lost much fertility over many years without these legendary animals. The project also focuses on ensuring the bison herd has strong migratory health, meaning it will greatly contribute to restoring the bison population in North America and the species' long-term survival. In 2023, American Prairie received 80 bison from a herd in Colorado and from another herd in Montana. As a result, in 2024, bison calves were born with mixed bloodlines. Continuing, we come to Kansas, an area that once had prairies and the loss of bison. This led to land degradation. Here there is a prairie biological station with an area of 53 square kilometers, located in co-owned by the university, the state of Kansas, and the Nature Conservancy. About 30 years ago, scientists began a long-term experiment to understand how bison and small livestock could impact local prairies. A herd of 120 bison was released into part of the research station and lived there year-round. In another area, livestock are released from April to November, and taken out and given supplemental feed during winter. In other areas, there is no grazing activity at all. This can be seen as simulating conditions where bison and livestock have completely disappeared due to human eradication. Here, the land is periodically burned to simulate fires that once occurred on the prairie before European settlement harmed the bison. While one might wonder why simulate something harmful to the forest, burning vegetation is actually essential because it helps restore bison. Newly burned areas are often rich in nutrients, attracting bison and helping them restore vegetation. Native American tribes also influenced bison ecology and expanded shortgrass prairies through controlled burning. Therefore, researchers applied a tactic in their experiment. After bison and livestock were allocated to specific areas and no grazing zones were established, scientists surveyed the soil and counted all plant species found. After many years, a pattern emerged. Where bison grazed, the number of dominant grasses decreased due to being eaten. However, when grasses were eaten, other native prairie plants thrived. As a result, after 3 decades, the number of native plant species in bison grazed areas increased by 86% compared to non. In other words, bison nearly doubled the richness of the prairie. Scientists say the return of large animals like bison helps restore grassland biodiversity, which was lost after the mass extinction of bison. In fact, even livestock contributed to increased biodiversity, but the increase was only 30%. This cannot compare to the 86% in areas with bison. Scientists also found that thanks to bison, prairie flora survived severe droughts in 2011 and 2012. Some native animal species were affected by drought, but thanks to bison, they recovered. Bison not only help restore native animals but also play an important role in combating climate change. Restoring bison in North America is an important step in rewilding areas that have lost their natural state due to human activities. Although current bison numbers are less than 1% of what they were before and only about 20,000 are protected, but increasing bison restoration projects suggest a future where vast grasslands are restored is not far off. Bison not only improve soil but also help prevent desertification. Scientists studying holistic planned grazing methods believe that controlled grazing can help transform barren land into fertile. This method mimics the movement of wildlife, reduces overgrazing, and utilizes bison trampling to decompose old vegetation and natural fertilizer. However, this method requires strict organization such as dividing land into grazing areas and planning animal movement timing and space. Despite skepticism, scientists have proven this method can improve barren soil. Areas where it has been applied show clear differences, with more grass growing proving the method's effectiveness. Therefore, although the method requires effort, investment, and detailed planning, results demonstrate it is a feasible and sustainable solution for reclaiming barren land. What are your thoughts on this solution? Please leave a comment below. Don't forget to like and subscribe to mystery_core channel for more exciting content in the future.
Thank you for watching the video and see you in future explorations.
Please subscribe to mystery_core channel to support the channel and receive more interesting content.